A police officer placed a firm hand on my shoulder, stopping me in my tracks. "You shouldn't look." My eyes stayed, locked on my sister's house. The front door stood wide open. Soft crying echoed from inside. "That's my daughter crying." "Why?" The words came out, but they didn't sound like they belonged to me. "What happened to my daughter?" The look on the officer's face answered everything. Everything I needed to know, and everything I prayed wasn't true. If this had happened 3 weeks earlier, none of this would exist. 3 weeks ago, I was packing for Boston. I had been selected for a school exchange program, a huge opportunity. 5 years into my career as a music teacher, this was my first real breakthrough. The program would last 3 weeks. But there was one problem. Who would take care of my 5-year-old daughter, Sophia? I spoke to my ex-husband, James. He had an overseas business trip, scheduled for the exact same 3 weeks. Even after the divorce, we always worked together when it came to Sophia. This time, there was no solution. That's when my sister Amy stepped in. "I'll take care of Sophia," she said warmly. "I'd love to spend time with her." I hadn't seen Amy much lately, but she'd always been gentle. She depended on me a lot. Whenever life fell apart for her, she came to me. I truly believed I had always been there for her. "That would really help," I told her. Amy smiled. "Sophia is adorable. I can't wait to have her here." There was only one thing that unsettled me. Amy's boyfriend, Kevin. The first time I met him, something about him felt wrong. He was distant, his eyes were cold. He made me uncomfortable. But Amy brushed it off. "Kevin's actually really sweet," she insisted. "He says he likes Sophia." I trusted my sister. Or maybe I just wanted to. 2 weeks ago, I video called from Boston. "Sophia, how are you, sweetheart?" Only Amy appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted. "She's asleep," Amy said. "I don't want to wake her." Why did she look so tired? I ignored the feeling in my gut. 10 days ago, I called again. "I want to talk to Sophia." "She's outside playing right now," Amy replied. "I'll call you back later." That call never came. A week ago, I texted. "Can we video call? I miss her." Amy answered. "She's at the park with Kevin. I'll have her call later." Again, silence. A knot formed in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. They were probably just busy. Amy was my sister. She would never hurt my child. 3 days ago, I finally heard Sophia's voice. "Mama." It was faint. Quiet. Nothing like her usual cheerful self. "Are you okay?" I asked quickly. "Are you having fun?" "Yeah." That was it. Something was very wrong. Sophia is something. "Sorry, it's dinner time," Amy interrupted. The call ended. That night, sleep never came. My instincts screamed that something was wrong, but I couldn't name it. Today, the program ended. I called Amy from the airport. No answer. I sent a text. Unread. Fear replaced anxiety. I jumped into a taxi and went straight to Amy's house. The moment I arrived, my breath caught. I knocked on the door. Nothing. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. I reached for the spare key Amy had given me. It didn't fit. The lock had been changed. Why would she change the lock? I moved to the window. Inside, the living room was destroyed. Furniture lay overturned. Deep holes scarred the walls. And in that moment, I knew. Something terrible had happened inside that house. My heart raced violently. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "I can't get inside my sister's house," I said, my voice breaking. "My daughter is in there. I'm scared something's wrong." 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. A woman stepped out, Detective Sarah Chen. She appeared to be in her 40s, composed, steady, and observant. "Miss Parker," she said calmly, "tell me what happened." I told her everything. That I had left my daughter there for 3 weeks. That no one had been answering my calls. That the locks had been changed. Sarah walked to the door and knocked firmly. "Police." No response. After getting approval over the radio, she forced the door open. I stood frozen at the entrance as officers moved inside. A police officer placed his hand firmly on my shoulder. "Ma'am, you shouldn't go in." But I could hear it. My daughter was crying. Sophia was crying. I pushed past him and rushed inside. The house was far worse than I had imagined. The living room walls were punched through, several holes the size of fists. The couch was ripped apart, stuffing spilling everywhere. The table lay flipped over, chairs snapped and broken. It looked like violence had torn through the space. In the kitchen, broken dishes littered the floor. Shards of plates caught the light. The sink overflowed with dirty dishes. Then I saw it. Something dark and dried splashed across the refrigerator door. It took a moment to understand. Blood. "Miss Parker, please stay here," Detective Sarah said. Her words barely reached me. All I could hear was my daughter crying. I ran toward the back of the house. "Wait," Sarah shouted behind me. I rushed down the hallway. One bedroom door was partly open. Soft sobs drifted out. As I reached for the door, a young officer grabbed my arm. "Ma'am, you shouldn't look." "Why?" I demanded, staring at him. "What happened to my daughter?" He couldn't answer. The sympathy in his eyes told me everything. I pulled away and opened the door. In the corner of the room, a small figure was curled up. It was Sophia. My little girl sat with her back pressed against the wall. Her pink dress was filthy, torn, stained with mud. Her hair was tangled, like it hadn't been brushed or washed in days. But it was her face that destroyed me. A deep bruise spread across her left cheek. Her lip was cracked and bleeding. Her right eye was swollen shut, dark purple and blue. On her arm were 5 round bruises, unmistakable fingerprints. "Sophia." My voice broke. She flinched. She looked at me with terror, like she didn't recognize who I was. "Sophia, it's Mama." I moved slowly, carefully, like approaching a frightened animal. My daughter curled tighter into herself. "It's okay," I whispered. "You're safe now." When I reached out my hand, Sophia raised her arms to shield her face, as if she expected to be hit. That single motion shattered me. My child was afraid of adults. She was afraid of me. "Sophia," I said softly. "It's Mama. You don't have to be scared." I knelt down to her level, repeating her name again and again, quietly, gently, patiently. Slowly, her eyes began to focus. She recognized me. "Mama." The moment I heard that tiny voice, tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. "Yes, it's Mama. I'm here now. I came to get you." Sophia's little body collapsed against me as she sobbed. She felt so light. She had lost weight in just 3 weeks. She clung to my neck, repeating over and over, "Mama, Mama, Mama," as if saying that word was the only thing keeping her anchored to reality. I stroked her back gently, whispering again and again that she was safe now, that everything was okay. From the hallway, another officer called out, "There's another one here." I looked up. Detective Sarah stepped out of the next room, and behind her, Amy appeared. My sister was badly hurt too. Her face bore large bruises. Her right cheek was swollen, her lip cut, and her left arm was wrapped in bandages, soaked with blood. Amy was crying. When she saw me, her sobs intensified. She staggered toward me. I'm sorry," she whispered. I stood there, still holding Sophia. Amy came closer, eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything." "Amy, what happened?" My voice was calm, But inside, a storm of emotions churned, anger, confusion, and a strange mix of sympathy for my sister. "Kevin," Amy said, her voice trembling. She couldn't continue, breaking down again. Detective Sarah supported her as she wept. "I've called an ambulance," Sarah said. "Both of you need to go to the hospital." 15 minutes later, we were in the ambulance. Sophia sat on my lap, still trembling slightly. Amy lay on a stretcher, glancing at me from time to time, guilt and fear in her eyes. At the hospital, Sophia was rushed to pediatrics. Dr. Lisa Martinez examined her. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, but as she inspected Sophia, her expression became grave. After the exam, she led me into the hallway. "Miss Parker," she said softly, "this is abuse." I leaned against the wall. I had suspected it, but hearing it aloud made the weight of reality hit me all at once. "There are multiple contusions," Dr. Martinez continued. On her face, arms back, she paused carefully. "There are also signs of an old fracture. The bone in her left arm was broken about a week ago and has started healing naturally." "A week ago," my voice trembled. I had spoken to Sophia on the phone then. Her arm had been broken, and she hadn't said a word. No, she couldn't have. Who would do this?" I whispered, biting my lip. Dr. Martinez didn't answer, but placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Your daughter is strong, but she will need time and psychological care as well." I nodded. That was all I could do. When I returned to the hospital room, Sophia was asleep, likely sedated. Her small face was covered in bandages and bruises. I sat beside her, holding her tiny hand. So small, and someone had heard it. From the hallway, I overheard Amy talking to Detective Sarah. I leaned to listen through the crack in the door. "Kevin," Amy said, tears flowing. "He's been getting violent lately." "Since when?" Sarah asked. "About 2 weeks ago. Work stress. At first, he took it out on things, punching walls, throwing dishes." "Did he hit you too?" Amy nodded. "He did. I couldn't escape. I was terrified." "Did he hurt Sophia as well?" Amy's voice broke. "Sophia, yes. He started hitting her. I tried to stop him." She covered her face, trembling. "Kevin hit me too, and he said if I told anyone, it would be worse." I clenched my fists. That man with cold eyes had harmed my child. Detective Sarah calmly wrote notes. "Kevin Martinez, correct. Do you know where he is now?" Amy shook her head. "I don't know. Last night he went on another rampage and then left. He hasn't come back." "Understood," Sarah said. "We'll issue an alert immediately." I returned to Sophia's room and held her tiny hand once more. "Kevin," the name burned inside me like fire. Yet, at the same time, a small doubt began to stir. Something wasn't adding up, but I didn't yet know what. 2 days later, Kevin was arrested. Detective Sarah called at 8 a.m. I had spent the night by Sophia's bedside, barely sleeping. She had been haunted by nightmares, waking multiple times, and each time I held her and whispered that she was safe. We've apprehended Kevin," Sarah said calmly. "He was hiding in a friend's apartment." I looked out the window. "That's good," I said. But inside, I felt nothing. Nothing was good. Catching Kevin wouldn't undo Sophia's injuries. It wouldn't heal the psychological scars. "He's denying everything," Sarah continued. "But we have enough evidence. Your daughter's testimony, the doctor's report, and your sister's account." I nodded, but no words came out. After Kevin's arrest, I went to visit Amy in her hospital room. She was sitting on the bed by the window, her bruises starting to turn yellow. When she saw me, tears poured down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I sat beside her. "Amy, you were a victim too," I said gently. She nodded. I was scared. Kevin was sweet at first, then he suddenly changed. I pulled her into a hug. Amy cried on my shoulder. I cried too, but my tears were different, tears of anger, and tears of unease. Something was nagging at me, something I couldn't yet name. On the third day, I met with Dr. Martinez, in Sophia's examination room. We were reviewing my daughter's medical records. "Doctor," I said, "could you show me Sophia's injuries in detail again?" Dr. Martinez adjusted her glasses. "Is something bothering you?" I took a deep breath. I worked in Child Protective Services for 5 years as a social worker. Her eyes widened. "I didn't know that," she said. "I've seen hundreds of abuse cases," I continued. "So I know when something isn't right." We spread the medical charts across the desk. Sophia's injuries were marked on a body diagram. I studied each one carefully. 5 years of experience whispered to me. "This bruise," I said, pointing to her arm, "is from an adult man's hand." "Yes," Dr. Martinez nodded. "Based on its size, it's consistent with an adult male." "But this one," I said, pointing to a contusion on her back, "is different." Dr. Martinez frowned. "What do you mean?" "The shape, it's not a palm. It's a fist, but the size," I narrowed my eyes. "Too small for a man." Dr. Martinez reviewed the records again, then slowly nodded. "You're right, this could be a woman's fist." My heart raced. "Doctor, could Sophia's injuries have been caused by 2 different people?" Dr. Martinez studied the charts for a long moment before answering. "Yes, that's highly likely. Some injuries match a male assailant, others a female." I stood up. "A woman, Amy." "No, that couldn't be right. My sister was supposed to be a victim too." "Doctor," I said, "could I see my sister's medical records as well?" Dr. Martinez looked at me, a mix of understanding and caution in her eyes. "Miss Parker, what are you suspecting?" "I don't know yet," I admitted honestly. "But I need to investigate." When I finally reviewed Amy's medical records, the suspicion that had been lingering turned into certainty. The bruises on Amy's face didn't look natural. The mark on her right cheek had been made by a right hand, but I had been told Kevin was right-handed. When a right-handed person strikes someone, they usually hit the left side of the face. Then there were the wounds on Amy's arm beneath the bandages. They were shallow, straight, parallel, like cuts made deliberately. "These are," I inhaled slowly, "self-inflicted injuries." Dr. Martinez said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence confirmed it all. I left the room and walked down the hallway. Inside my head, every scattered piece began locking into place. The unanswered calls. The avoided video chats. The changed lock. My sister's injuries. But one question screamed louder than the rest. Why? Why would Amy do this? I called Detective Sarah. "Detective Chen, I need to ask something," I said. "May I have permission to search my sister's house?" There was a pause. "Why? Kevin is already in custody." "It's a gut feeling," I said, staring out the window. "But something is very wrong. I worked for CPS for 5 years. I was trained to recognize abuse." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "All right," she said finally. "I trust your instincts." The next day, Sarah and I returned to Amy's house. The place was still destroyed, but this time I saw it differently. Through the eyes I once had as a CPS worker. Abusers always leave traces. Notes, messages, journals. They hide them where they believe no one will ever search. I started in the living room. Drawers, shelves, nothing. The kitchen. The bathroom. Still nothing. Then I stepped into Amy's bedroom. The bed was perfectly made. Family photos covered the walls, Amy and me, standing beside our mother, all of us smiling. I searched methodically, just like I'd been trained. Closet. Drawers. Behind the mirror. Under the bed. I knelt down. In the dust beneath it, I saw a thin book. My heart skipped. I reached out and pulled it free. It was a diary. My hands shook violently. "I found something," I told Sarah. I opened it. The first page was dated 15 years ago, when Amy was 14. Mom chose Nicole. She says she's smarter. She has more potential. What about me? I was left with Dad. He didn't want me. He only kept me because he had to. I turned the page. 10 years ago, Dad died. Nicole came to the funeral and left immediately. She left me alone. The debt was $30,000. I paid it all by myself. Another page. 5 years ago, Nicole had a baby. Sophia. Mom is so happy. Sophia is so cute. When I visit, Mom asks me, Amy, when will you get married? Always comparing me. 2 years ago. Mom's will. Nicole gets $150,000. I get $50,000. The excuse is Sophia's education. Even after death, Sophia gets more than me. Then the final entry. 3 months ago. Nicole wants to leave Sophia with me for 3 weeks. This is my chance. I'll destroy her perfect life. If I break Sophia, Nicole will break too. The diary nearly slipped from my hands. They were shaking so badly, I could barely hold it. Miss Parker, Sarah's voice felt far away. Are you okay? I couldn't speak. I simply handed her the diary. We continued searching. Behind a loose drawer panel, I found another phone. A second cell phone. I pressed the power button. The screen was filled with messages between Amy and Kevin. One message from 2 weeks earlier caught my eye. She's crying again. I can't take it. Kevin had replied. Just ignore her. I can't, Amy wrote back. Her voice reminds me of my sister, perfect Nicole, and her perfect daughter. Kevin answered. Then deal with it, I don't care. I will. My grip tightened around the phone until my fingers ached. Everything had been a lie. Amy's tears. Her fear. Her role as a helpless victim. It was all an act. My sister had knowingly, deliberately, and repeatedly harmed my daughter. When I returned to the hospital with the evidence, something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was calm. Cold. Focused. The same clarity I used to feel during my 5 years working at Child Protective Services when confronting abusers. But this time was different. This time, the abuser was my sister. Detective Sarah carefully documented the diary and the phone, sealing them as evidence. Then she looked at me. Miss Parker, do you want to confront her? I nodded. Yes, please record everything from the next room. Sarah hesitated. Are you sure? That could be dangerous. I faced abusers for 5 years, I said quietly. But this time it's my sister. I need to do this. Sarah studied my face, then nodded. All right, if anything happens, I'm coming in immediately. I stood outside Amy's hospital room, the diary heavy in my hands. I took a slow breath and opened the door. Amy sat on the bed, gazing out the window. When she heard me, she turned and smiled. You came. That smile lodged painfully in my throat. I had trusted it for so many years. Amy, we need to talk. I sat down without showing her the diary. What about Sophia? Her eyes instantly filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I was terrified I couldn't do anything. Don't lie. Amy froze. What? She whispered. I'm a former CPS worker, I said evenly. I've seen hundreds of abusers. The color drained from her face. Your injuries, I continued. You caused them yourself. The angles don't match. She stared at me. The bruise on your right cheek was made by a right hand, I said. Kevin is right-handed. That doesn't align. What are you saying? She whispered. The wounds on your arm are shallow and parallel, I went on. That's a classic pattern of self-inflicted injury. I took out the diary. Amy's eyes widened in panic. And this, I said, opening it. Your diary, hidden under your bed for 15 years. That's not mine, she stammered. We'll confirm it with handwriting analysis, I replied calmly. And I also found the phone, the messages with Kevin, every single one. I began reading them aloud, one after another. Amy's face turned gray. I suspected it early on, I said. Sophia's behavior, your injuries, the messages. So I investigated, I continued, using the same methods I learned at CPS. And I found everything. Amy didn't speak. She just sat there, staring at me in silence. Why? I asked quietly. Why would you hurt Sophia? The room fell into silence. Thick, heavy, suffocating. Then Amy laughed. It was cold and hollow, a sound I had never heard from her before. Why? She repeated. You're actually asking me that. The tears vanished from her face, replaced by something darker. Pure resentment. You really never understood anything, she said as she stood up. 15 years ago, she continued, her voice rising. Mom chose you. Nicole is exceptional, she said. She has a future. And what about Amy? I was sent away to live with Dad. I was the leftover. Her voice trembled with rage. Then Dad died. You came to the funeral and left. I was the one stuck with $30,000 in debt. Alone. Amy, I didn't know, I said softly. I told you, she screamed. You never listened. You were always busy with your perfect life. And then the inheritance, she went on bitterly. $150,000 for you, 50 for me. And why? Because of Sophia, always Sophia. I stood up. That still doesn't justify hurting a child. Innocent, Amy laughed harshly. Sophia is the symbol of your flawless life. If I broke her, I broke you. That was fairness. I stared at her and realized I no longer recognized the person standing before me. You're sick, I said. No, she replied calmly. I wanted balance. I wiped my tears and met her gaze. Amy, for 15 years, you made choices every single day. You chose bitterness, and you hurt an innocent child. Now tears poured down her face, real ones. I won't forgive you, I said firmly. And Sophia won't either. Family isn't blood, I continued. It's choice, and you chose hatred. The door opened. Detective Sarah entered with several officers. Amy Parker, you're under arrest. As they led her away, Amy turned back to look at me one last time. Were we ever really sisters? I thought we were, I replied quietly. But you gave that up 15 years ago. I went back to Sophia's room. When she saw me, she smiled. 1 year later, my daughter laughed with her friends at her 6th birthday party. We had survived, and now we were truly living. The door closed behind Amy, and silence settled over the hospital room. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty space where she had stood, half expecting her to still be there if I looked closely enough. Outside the window, the sun was shining. The sky stretched endlessly blue. The world moved on, unchanged, indifferent, as if nothing had happened. But my world had been completely transformed. I returned to Sophia's room. She was sitting up in bed, slowly turning the pages of a picture book. When she saw me, a small smile formed. Mama. I hugged her gently, careful of her injuries. And in my heart, I made a promise I would never let go again. A year later, Amy was sentenced to 12 years in prison. The diary and the messages were undeniable evidence. In court, my sister insisted until the very end. I'm the victim. The judge replied calmly. You were consumed by jealousy for 15 years, and you harmed an innocent child. That is unforgivable. Kevin was also convicted of child abuse. It was revealed he hadn't known about Amy's plan, and his sentence was 5 years shorter than hers. I never visited Amy. I never answered her letters. Every letter she sent was thrown away, unopened. Sophia went through intensive therapy. For the first 3 months, she suffered from night terrors, waking up screaming in the dark. Each time, I held her close and whispered that she was safe. Slowly, Her smile returned. 6 months later, Sophia returned to school. Now, a full year had passed, and my daughter was laughing with her friends again. Today was Sophia's 6th birthday. Our home was filled with colorful decorations, music, and laughter. Sophia ran around with her friends, while James carried in the birthday cake. Over the past year, my relationship with my ex-husband had changed. We weren't married anymore, but as Sophia's parents, we made a choice to protect her together. Detective Sarah was there. Dr. Martinez was there. Sophia's therapist, Dr. Patel, was there too. This is a special day, I said to everyone. Not just because it's Sophia's birthday, but because today we thank everyone who stood up for her and kept her safe. Sophia clapped excitedly. Mama, Papa, Sarah, Lisa, thank you everyone. The room filled with applause. Tears welled in my eyes. Happy birthday, Sophia. That night, as I tucked her into bed, she smiled sleepily. Mama, I had so much fun today. I'm really happy. Then she hesitated. Will Aunt Amy come back? I gently stroked her hair. No, I said softly. She won't. Sophia nodded. Good, I was scared. You're safe now, I whispered. Mama will always protect you. She looked up at me seriously. Mama, I can't forgive Aunt Amy. Is that bad? I pulled her close. No, Sophia, you don't have to forgive. You did nothing wrong. Always remember that. Then I smiled gently. But Mama learned something important because of Aunt Amy. What? That family isn't blood, I said. Family is people who choose to love and protect each other every single day. Papa chose us. Sarah chose us. Lisa chose us. Dr. Patel chose us. So they're our family. Sophia's eyes lit up. Then I choose you too, Mama. I wiped away my tears. And I choose you, I said softly. Every day, forever. Mama, I love you. I love you too, forever. The next morning, I walked into the CPS office. 6 months earlier, I had made a decision to return to work, not as a music teacher, but as a social worker once again. Sophia's case had given me back my purpose. I sat at my desk and opened a new file. A 5-year-old girl, suspected abuse. I took a deep breath. I was ready. Family isn't blood. It's choice. Every morning, I choose Sophia. Every day, James chooses to be there for her. Every week, Sarah chooses to check in. Lisa chooses to listen after every appointment. They chose us. And we chose them. That is family. Amy chose hatred. I chose healing. I chose growth. I chose to protect other children. We survived. And now, we were truly living. That is what real family does. That is what real love looks like. I opened the file and began my work. We survived. And now, we were truly living. That is what real family does. That is what real love looks like. I opened the file and began my work. Thank you for watching. Justice After Dark.